Good grief, Charlie Brown, look at this! The Knott's Berry Farm parking lot is very, very full today. And holy bluebird, Batman, look at all the buses out here. This is the most full I've ever seen this parking lot when it wasn't a weekend or a holiday. The parking lot is so full, I actually had to park all the way out here. Basically, all the way back in the Buena Park Mall, pretty much. I mean, look at this, it's full all the way to the back of the parking lot, and Soak City, the water park, isn't even open. And I can think of a lot of reasons Knott's Berry Farm is popular at the moment, which we'll get into in a little while. But all this popularity isn't even the crazy part. You know what the craziest part is? I remember when this was all farmland as far as the eye could see. Old man Knott owned all of this. Had this crazy idea about breeding boysenberries. A crazy idea that really paid off. Look at this from the Soak City side of the entrance. Even when the parking lot is full, nobody's ever around over by Walter Knott's gorgeous 1966 one-to-one replica of Independence Hall out here. This is one of the coolest attractions in the whole state of California. A free-to-enter replica of the building in which in 1776 the Declaration of Independence was signed, 1789 the U.S. Constitution was signed. Maybe it's because Soak City over here was built up all around the front of Independence Hall and sort of blocks the view of it from the major thoroughfare out there on Beach Boulevard. But whenever I come walking by here, I can't help but think that if this were in any other part of the nation, in any other state, in any other place, you'd go free giant replica of Independence Hall. It'd be a major roadside attraction. The crazy thing is, it wasn't always so dead over here either. Knott's Independence Hall with its beautiful one-to-one replica of the Liberty Bell and statues of George Washington and Betsy Ross and the show about the signing of the Declaration of Independence, and of course its filming location for National Treasure with Nicolas Cage. It didn't start out as a weird attraction across the street from Knott's Berry Farm. When they built this place, it was very much a part of Knott's Berry Farm because Knott's Berry Farm itself, the amusement park part of it, used to spill out over onto this side of the street as well. Now, I've been working on a whole deep dive thing about this subject with old footage and photos and all the historical information you could ever want. That'll be coming along later this year, but the short version is where now you have sort of some corporate picnic areas and several new and improved event centers out here at Knott's Berry Farm, not to mention pretty much the entire western half of the huge modern Peanuts parking lot out here. You used to have a whole theme park unto itself. Just here in what's now a parking lot, there was a lagoon with a steamboat and a miniature train and other amusement park rides. So this whole stretch between what's now the parking lot and Independence Hall would have been full of people wandering back and forth, picnicking on fried chicken, buying concessions, riding rides. It was never as popular or as busy as the main part of Knott's Berry Farm over Beach Boulevard. Well, or under Beach Boulevard, as the case may be. But it just goes to show you there's still a lot more to this old farm than meets the eye, that's for sure. All right, we're finally over to the farm side of the road. If you're interested in Knott's Berry Farm's history and how it evolved from an actual working berry farm into one of, if not the first permanent theme park in Southern California and maybe the country, check out the Knott's Berry Farm 100th anniversary documentary that I did on this place a while ago. I'm not getting super deep into history. Well, I can't help getting into history when I come to Knott's Berry Farm. That's all I see around me. But history isn't my primary mission today, even though I see pieces of Knott's Berry Farm's first ever proper attraction here, amusement park attraction, and old San Francisco cable car routes, references to the Walter Knott family. No. My main thing today is I have come to renew my season pass to Knott's. You can do it online, but I tend to prefer coming and renewing in person with the Knott's Berry Farm associates or employees, or as I call them, farmers. There's nothing like a friendly farmer to fix you right up. All right, everything is kosher and cool with my season pass. Now I just have to go inside and get my picture taken at the turnstiles for the year. But look at this. Look at the price right here, $155. That gets you admission to Knott's Berry Farm all year long. And it's still a true annual pass. You don't have any blackout days. There's no restrictions. And best of all, no reservations. You've already paid for your admission. One of the things that made Knott's Berry Farm so much more beloved after the pandemic is they immediately returned to business as usual. No reservations, no price gouging or hanky-panky changing the way the annual pass system worked. Not to mention that during the pandemic, they opened up as soon as possible. They couldn't operate like the normal amusement park rides and such, but they had a whole series of socially distanced and safe events like food festivals out here for the community to enjoy that, believe me, the whole community living in Southern California really appreciated at that time. And speaking of food festivals, you may notice all these decorations right here are out because once again, Knott's Berry Farm's annual Boysenberry Festival is underway, which is another reason Knott's Berry Farm is a very popular choice today. Now, the Boysenberry Festival is one of my favorites in that it pays homage to the old berry farm days of Knott's Berry Farm. Even right there, front and center, that booth is a replica, a smaller scale replica of the berry stand that Walter and Cordelia Knott had out there on Grand Avenue in the 1920s. And here we are 100 years later, and the replica is selling boysenberry products. If you've ever tasted boysenberry, like boysenberry jam or anything like that, you'll know it's a very sweet, delicious berry, especially on toast. And that berry was first successfully grown and marketed right here on this property by none other than Walter Knott, who named it for Rudy Boysen, the guy who originally created the boysenberry, by crossing a raspberry, a blackberry, a dewberry, and a loganberry. The loganberry is the ones with the thorns that come out of your hand. Anyway, like I said, right out here on this very farm was the place where Walter Knott first successfully marketed and sold the boysenberry, which was a huge hit, and combined with the success of his wife's chicken dinner restaurant, gave him the financial success he'd always wanted, and of course eventually the resources to build his very own ghost town, which of course turned from historical attraction and curiosity into one of the first proper theme parks anywhere in America. And if Walter Knott proved that no other berry could be more delicious and successful than his boysenberry, then Knott's Berry Farm today proves there's no product you can't stick a boysenberry onto. Because they've got a ton of food out here at the Boysenberry Festival, and they'll put that boysenberry flavor into just about anything. Isn't that right, fellas?
Oh, no. Can you believe he's talking to us again?
Get the same heck out of Ghost Town, kid.
I heard he turned 40. He's not a kid anymore.
Get the same heck out of Ghost Town, old man.
Right. I am old, but not as old as this farm. Anyways, yeah, let's get out of Ghost Town. Just for a moment, though, because aside from all the experimental boysenberry foods out here, Knott's Berry Farm has 1,000% upped their merch game in the last several years. Fine gifts indeed. And if you came looking for boysenberry merch, you won't be disappointed. Look at this boysenberry bags, boysenberry blankets, ornaments, glasses, sippy cups, tall and short mugs, reusable water bottles, shot glasses, boysenberry tea towels and aprons and pot holders, boysenberry pie umbrellas. Okay, fine, they're parasols, whatever. Boysenberry picnic blankets and shorts, tank tops and shirts, boysenberry soap, boysenberry bath salts, even boysenberry booty shorts. And they're just my size. They've got V-necks and sweatshirts and hoodies, a whole collection of pins, everything from pencil cases to pillows to the berries themselves. In a can, of course. I particularly like this sick piece of merch. It's not brand new. It's been around for a little while now, but look at that. Little Department 56 Walter and Cordelia Knott. How cool is that for all their kids and grandkids and great-grandkids? There she is, old Mrs. Knott, who, by the way, you can now buy a short biography of out here, as well as Chris Merritt's epic book, Knott's Preserved. Don't try preserving your wallet. That one's worth the money. They've also got this, which I've shown before. They have replica glassware, recreating some of the old glass products, well, ceramic products, that were common souvenirs when Walter and Cordelia owned the place. I am so excited to see this, not just because I like sick merch in general and design and stuff like that, because I know so many historians and enthusiasts, and I won't even discount myself, who have tried so hard, particularly in the last 10 years or so, to teach people about Knott's Berry Farm's history and heritage, and to show people that Knott's Berry Farm's a lot more than just that little coaster park down the street from Disneyland. Getting people into Disneyland history was always relatively simple. There were always a lot of people working on that, and I think the general public always had somewhat of a good idea as to why Disneyland's historically important, and it's had a thriving fan culture, of course, since July of 1955, unbroken until this very day. Knott's Berry Farm was a little bit different. I think it was more local, more of a locally legendary hotspot, and even though it had a huge influence on theme park design and even Disneyland itself, it never really had that fan culture that it deserved. There was so much to be nerdy about, so much to know, and really, there was no sick merch. So many of us have been advocating long for this day. I think when the new owners bought it back in the late 90s, they at first treated it like it was going to be any other coaster park. I don't think they really realized the significance of the history and the culture at Knott's Berry Farm. But whoever's been in charge for the last 10 years or so has definitely helped usher in a massive shift in the way this place is run. And now, as you saw in just that one little shot, Knott's Berry Farm is ready to celebrate and appreciate its own history. And if that weekday parking lot we saw out there is any indication, the crowd is going wild. Dude, if you think the outside of this place looks like a ghost town, you should have seen the inside of the stores about 10 or 15 years ago. That was the real ghost town. Now they have Catawampus merch and ornaments. Brutus the donkey and Knott's old mascot Whittles are back. They've got merchandise for the railroad and for the rides, and there's even some panning for gold themed stuff in here. This is the most incredible, amazing night and day transformation. And although I and several others have been saying for years that Knott's would be very successful if they did stuff like this, I think we were just a small part of making this transformation, a tiny part. The bulk of the credit has to go to the Knott's Berry Farm employees that are here, that really care, that are passionate, that have been pushing and pushing. And I think a lot of credit has got to go to Chris Merritt and the folks behind the Knott's Preserved book, because finally somebody put all that Knott's Berry Farm history into an easy to understand, vividly colored, and greatly detailed book. I made it possible not just for the average fan to learn and know so much more about Knott's Berry Farm, but I'm gonna guess made it a lot easier for the people inside the company to point back to this, go, look how rad this was, let's do that again. Which makes this book itself now an important part of Knott's history. All right, now that I've said all that, speaking of important Knott's Berry Farm history, elephant in the room time. What in the heck is this? What in the heck is this? I don't mean the flowers. The flowers are beautiful. I don't mean the Rainmaker medicine show wagon. That is an important, beautiful piece of Knott's Berry Farm history and colorful, and I love to see it here in Ghost Town. What I'm talking about is what's missing. Where the heck is Old Betsy? Right where all this colorful stuff is where Old Betsy's supposed to be, an old mining train they dragged out of Trona, California, that's been in Ghost Town since the very beginning, practically. And for the first time in my life, no Old Betsy! So they thought they could just cover it up with flowers and cover up the disappearance of Old Betsy, did they? Well, they're not gonna fool this clown. I mean, this smart guy. Dude, I am not leaving this farm until I found out what's happening to Old Betsy. Is it gone? Forever? How could that be? It's a giant train. They can't just get rid of something like that. I've got to get to the bottom of this. Give me a little time. Give me a little time. In the meantime, since I'm in the neighborhood anyways, I should probably check in on that old blacksmith shop and see how my brand is doing. Look at that. There it is! If you missed out on how the Random Land logo ended up on the side of a building in Ghost Town over here at Knott's Berry Farm, go back and check out the episode where we got our very own Random Land branding iron. I had been trying to get one for years from this place, and I guess after 10 years of filming out here, they finally got used to me and allowed me to have the R registered into the walls of Ghost Town forever. Well, or until they replace this particular piece of wood. Look at it. It's doing nicely now. Look at that. We've been having so much rain lately. The R's been standing for rain that looks like I'm developing a nice patina in there. And so many people have been tagging me with this thing on Instagram, which is always super fun to see. Anyway, if you go find the episode, you can see them burning this into the wall, and the flames and everything was very exciting. It still doesn't even feel real, you know? It feels like something that happened in a dream or something like that, but nope, it was a dream come true after all. Speaking of 10 years of filming, that's the next thing I have to do is work on a 10-year anniversary video with lots of pieces and parts. We've been talking about it in the Facebook group and stuff. It's going to be a heck of a job to edit all of the stuff together. It might take a while. So for the next little while, I'm trying to keep these adventures short and sweet. They're shorter and sweeter than normal, so I can hopefully double up on the projects. Hey, let's go check on Catawampus over here. Hopefully nothing happened to Catawampus. I mean, if Old Betsy could go missing, anything could happen, I was gonna say. There's Catawampus. And baby catawampus back there. No longer is the species extinct. Just as Ghost Town's crowds are no longer extinct. There's people everywhere in here. Other than the obnoxiously loud music on the speakers, all I hear is the sound of happy folks, and I can smell sweet, sweet, delicious barbecue and manure. Where's that smell coming from? Well, it's not coming from over here. That's pure barbecue. Wait a minute. I know.
That stink's coming from the barn!
Which is still skinned with this reference to the old McDonald's farm that used to be here, an old petting area at Knott's Berry Farm way back in its history. I love that they're making so much of the past out here because that's what Knott's Berry Farm has always been about. Not the future, but teaching people about pioneering Americans, the old West, the old 49ers. And trip out on this, we are as far now in 2023 from the 1940s when Walter Knott built Ghost Town as he was from 1849 when Ghost Town was supposedly settled. You know what I mean? So if Walter Knott was looking back and saying the history of 100 years earlier was important, then we should be looking back and saying that Knott's Berry Farm's history, that in Ghost Town was really 80, but on the farm in general was 100 years ago, is also really important to us today to remember. So by having all these homages to their own past, Knott's Berry Farm today is really continuing the tradition and following in the footsteps of Walter Knott himself. He was out here celebrating the pioneers that had come out to California 100 years before him, and we're out here celebrating the history of what happened 100 years before now with that pioneering berry farmer and his strong pioneering restaurateur and businesswoman wife, Cordelia. Anyway, that's the way I look at it. Walter Knott, and then later, about 20 years later, Walt Disney built their parks partially to pay respect and homage to Western heritage and history, which back then was local heritage and history. And now their parks, and especially Knott's Berry Farm, has become local heritage and history. I mean, like for me, I grew up with this place, my parents grew up with this place, my grandparents moved here when they were pretty young and raised their kids in this place. I mean, Knott's has been a permanent fixture of Southern California and Orange County history for 100 years. A century! Whew. That might still be considered brand new in the Middle East or in parts of Europe, but a century in Southern California is ancient history, my friends. Forgot how loud that train was. It's been a long time since I got to drive it. I hate to repeat myself, but again, if you miss it, I did drive the train here at Knott's Berry Farm once, which was crazy. I only bring that up for two reasons. One, for the people who may not have seen that episode, and two, just to remind myself that it happened, because that also feels so surreal and weird. You know, this is awesome, the Boysenberry Festival, celebrating the past out here. If only we could get some actual farmers to grow boysenberries on the farm today, but apparently they're all too chicken. Isn't that right, Mr. Farmer? Or how about you? Nothing to say for yourself, huh? Chicken. Gosh, I love Knott's Berry Farm. You know what? For as much original stuff as they kind of deleted over the years, they still have so many epic things from not just Knott's history, but Old West history, like this replica of the Jersey Lily Saloon, Judge Roy Bean's place down there in Texas. I've never seen the original, but I'm very familiar with this replica. Allie and I got married in here in 2014. You can come buy a hitching license that'll be signed by Judge Roy Bean. They give you these little nails that are kind of in a circle for rings. And even though we haven't been able to have an official wedding because COVID canceled the first one, and then her health stuff has just been, it's a long story, but her health stuff is more important right now. That's the focus. I think we both considered ourselves married ever since we got hitched here at Judge Roy Bean's. Look at this place. What a survivor. Some of the stuff in here is super old. Like, look at the old Knott's Berry Farm trash can lids. You won't find many of these on the farm anymore. Neither will you find the old wooden chairs and tables with the cast iron bases like you used to see in the Calico Saloon. And there's old Lily Langtree herself. Look at that, she autographed it to Judge Roy Bean. Ah, yes, they used to serve up a lot of boysenberry punch and sarsaparilla in this place. Got the old stove with the sandbox around it to catch all the ashes, and look at that! There it is, the hitching license. That's what you get when you want to get married in Ghost Town. Awful quiet in the old saloon today, but look at this. Look at some of the old details, especially the carvings on the bar. Looks like some of them are a little weather-eaten. They could use a little restoration. For the moment, they seem pretty well preserved. I feel like it's gonna last for a long time. By the way, Lily Langtree was the famous actress that Judge Roy Bean named his saloon for, and not just the saloon, but the town of Langtree, Texas as well. Someday I'm gonna get out there, I'm gonna see the original. It's a very important piece of Texas history, but right now at the moment, the only history I'm interested in is the history of this trash. Look at this thing. Oh, they've also got an old arcade machine over here. Look at that. The love teller. How about that? This has been here since the early days of Knott's Berry Farm. Back in the day for only 10 cents. You could find out if your love was real enough
To make a hitching license stick. Yeah, Judge Roy Bean, he was the law west of the Pecos. And Walter Knott came here and made him the law west of the Santa Ana River as well.
Oh, I didn't even notice that sign. Look at that. Hitching license here. You can still do it. New goal. I drove the train. I got the branding iron burned into the blacksmith shop. Now I want the branding iron burned into Judge Roy Bean's. No, not really. Seeing how ornate that carved bar is back there with all the bottles and cups all over it, now gives me a new goal. Someday I'd love to have one of my wood carvings in Knott's Berry Farm. Now that would be awesome. Now, a lot of the wood and stuff out here has been dry rotted and replaced, and I always point at this, the old Black Bart stagecoach, supposedly a real stagecoach that Black Bart at one time robbed. And if you've never heard of Black Bart, he was the most famous stagecoach robber in California. Speaking of stagecoaches, here goes one of the old Knott stagecoaches right now. Long line to get in those things, but always cool to ride on a stagecoach. Anyway, Black Bart, the well-spoken poetry citing robber, supposedly robbed this very stagecoach. There's no way to tell if that's authentically true. Certainly many of the parts must have come from the original stagecoach that legend is tied back to, but so much of the wood from all the various pieces of Western history that Walter Knott collected and brought here to the farm have since decayed or dry rotted, and they were doing so even when he was bringing them here and even when Walter Knott owned the farm. That's why they had their own carriage shop in here. They learned to make from scratch covered wagons and stagecoaches, wagon wheels, all that kind of stuff. They were made and produced here at Knott's Berry Farm for basically every Western attraction you can think of, plus museums, state parks, ghost towns, and everywhere else. So it's likely if you see any kind of old stagecoach or old wagon in California, or really anywhere in the Old West, that it's got at least parts and pieces restored or built at Knott's Berry Farm back when it had its old wagon shop. All right, hang on, guys. I'm gonna be right back with you in a second. I've got someone from Knott's Berry Farm headed over this way to talk to me so I can find out what happened to our friend, Old Betsy. I'll be right back. Hang on, check this out. Jeff Tucker and I, old Texas Tucker and I, have discovered this old book in Judge Roy Bean's. Look at this, from back in the 50s. It's got 1950s Hitchens in it. Where were some of the ones you saw? Oh, there were some really old. Well, it's 2017. That's not that old.
Kurt Nielsen, he was a good friend of mine.
1979 to 1988.
But he was also in here 94 because he trained me. Yeah.
Wait, so way back in here, look at these. These go all the way back to 1955.
Doc? Are you telling me this is a book about Hitchens, Doc?
Oh, not just Hitchens, Barney. Couplings and weddings.
Old Texas Tucker here used to work in here as a Judge Roy Bean hitching agent in the 90s. Look at all of these incredible names from the 1950s. Look at some of the birthdays there. 1990, 1930, 1925. Look at all the folks from England right here. It looks like most of these in here are from 1955. Crazy.
There's 3 rings of merit.
I don't remember if I got to sign in this book. I know he used the book, because I remember in the front of it are the hitching instructions. Look at that. The Hitchens. Do you read those?
Oh yeah.
Are those the same ones you read, or are they different?
We are gathered here on this solemn occasion to join this unfortunate couple in the completely ridiculous state of being hitched.
Yes.
If there's anyone here who knows the reason why this couple should not be hitched, let them speak now or forever hold their breath. Oh yeah, it comes right back to you. Yeah. That's where you do the gavel.
No kidding. So that's just from. Yeah. So how old is this, do you think?
Oh, that's probably
all the way back?
That's probably from the 80s at least.
Walter Knott's original gavel. Okay, putting it in my pocket. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm sorry. I don't want to go to a necktie party. All right, well, Much time has passed out here on the farm. I've had a few wonderful and wide-ranging conversations with some of the farmers and can now tell you with confidence that not only is Old Betsy not lost or destroyed, she's actually being restored and she will be back in Ghost Town ASAP. And actually, if I'm giving you Knott's Berry Farm updates, then I might as well also confidently tell you that there are many people now working at Knott's Berry Farm who did grow up here, who do cherish the history and respect the past and want to bring it back not just to its former glory, but beyond. And with that, my friends, I think this is probably a good time for me to make my exit from the farm. I know it was sort of a short adventure today, just a little teaser, but I'm recovering from all that birthday aftermath. And I've been pulling clips and getting ready to do the 10th anniversary video. Actually, as a matter of fact, we've been making 10th anniversary merchandise. The pre-orders have already begun. So if you haven't blown your whole budget on Knott's Berry Farm's Boysenberry Festival merchandise, you could always head on over to store.randomland.com and check it out. Anyway, I sort of forget what I was saying, but the point is, we'll be back. Not just at Knott's Berry Farm for all those history videos I was alluding to, but out in the real old Western California desert as well. We've got some road trips planned that are coming up soon. There's Disneyland stuff to talk about. There's a lot coming our way in 2023, including more Knott's Berry Farm. But for now, we've done our duty.
It's time to go home and sleep well.
You could always head on over to store.rand.